Hello, hello. How is everyone on this, I believe it's Wednesday. Yes, it's Wednesday. So we're joining together tonight. Talk about a sensitive subject. Very sensitive. Hi, Dee. How are you? Wanda from Missouri. Nice to see you. Polygraph. Good evening. Hello, Boston. How are you? Purdue RN, how are you? TTM Fangirl, nice to see you. Jill, hello. Andrea at the shop working on the printer. Ugh, okay. That doesn't sound good. Hello, Dee Dee, how are you? Wanda says, I just came home after being in Oklahoma for 2.5 weeks. I have a road ahead diagnosed with rare MPN. Just needed to spend time with family. Oh, I'm sorry, Wanda. I'm glad that you got to spend time with your family. Family is very important. I hope everything is going well and that, your diagnosis can be worked on or cured. Rose Shield says, or Rose Scheid says, feeling better, Marv? Yep, definitely. Pinched nerve is gone. My outpatient procedure went well on Monday. So feeling better. Ms. Persevere says, good evening. Hope you're both doing well. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Glad those of you are here, can join us tonight. Welcome to all of those of you who may watch this after the live is done. Yes, get well, Wanda. Our prayers and thoughts are definitely with you. Hey, True Crime Housewife. True Crime with Shannon. Nice to see y'all. All right. Yep, definitely doing better, Shannon. So Monday, when I got home and I was resting from my procedure, I was still groggy. And the alert came across a school shooting, Nashville, Tennessee. It's like, when is this going to stop? When is it going to stop? I don't see it stopping anytime soon. And it's a shame. Hey, Ruckus, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. So it was very surprising to hear that a female went into a school and did the shooting. And we've gotten a little bit more information since then. Yeah, Andrea and I were on the phone together. I was filling her in on my procedure, and all of a sudden the alert came across, and we both started searching and looking for videos, and that was what I watched for the next few hours. And like I said, it was very, very surprising to hear that this was a female shooter. Now we've gotten a little bit more information about that, and we'll get into that. But on Monday, an individual went to the Covenant School and shot through the windows to enter, went underneath the middle railing part after she shot through, went walking through the school, and in the process killed 3 children and 3 adults. Sad. Sad. And this was an elementary school, a Christian school, Christian church and school connected. You know, it made me think about my childhood because I went to a Christian school with the church and the school connected. And it was kindergarten through 8th grade, you know, and thinking about the smaller size school and the classrooms really compacted because you have smaller buildings, you know. And this school had 2 floors, mine only had 1, but you have smaller class sizes. And so this school only had about 200 children in it. So if you think about that and compare that to the larger schools that this has happened to, this could have been a lot more devastating. Because like I said, it's a smaller building. Classrooms are more compacted right next to each other. Could have been a lot worse. I give that school credit. It sounds like they locked those kids down, locked a lot of the doors, and the individuals that were killed were more out in the open versus being in a classroom. Wanda from Missouri says, school used to be a safe place. This world is not like it used to be. No, it's not. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about tonight. You know, we're here to remember the victims of this tragedy. But we're also here to discuss what is happening in this world and how this world is different from what we grew up in. Lollipops says, my son is in 6th grade and today they said they found live ammo in the girls' locker room. It's so scary. Yeah, it's terrifying. I can't imagine getting that notification, along with the notification that your son or daughter or mother or father or wife or husband or loved one has been killed in a school due to a shooting. This is becoming the norm. This is our norm. And it shouldn't be. So Mothers of Dragon says this, among other things. Hang on. Okay. I just ate, so blood sugar's going up. Just notifying me that it is. Yeah, you know, it's so different from. They have metal detectors. We're so confused. Yeah, Andrea knows what that sound is. Yeah. The sad part about all of this is we know that these kids, normally it's kids that we hear about. This lady was 28 years old. And so that's 2 things that are rare right there. Woman, 28. She's definitely, from the news reports that we've listened to and that I've listened to, she did have some emotional struggles. She identified both as a woman and as a transgender man. So, you know, this is the first time this has happened. So that's another rare thing that's in this whole scheme of these school shootings. Yeah. Well, the metal detectors aren't going to stop her because she shot through the windows. And what I've heard is that when she shot through the windows, that is when the first victim fell. It was the janitor. He got hit and was killed. Yeah, kids used to be off limits. It hasn't been that way for years. Look at it. We're on March 29th. Okay. April 20th is coming quick, and that is the anniversary of Columbine. Now, we had school shootings before Columbine, but it was not as public as Columbine was. You know, you got to see the aftermath of it. Columbine was the first one where we watched hours and hours and hours of video footage of those kids running out of the school and kids that were bloody and hurt, doing interviews right away. You know, we saw what happened firsthand. We saw kids running out of school, hiding behind police cars, and then the police cars racing them out of there. You know, and we said never again at that time. Well, look what's happened. How many school shootings have we had since then? Way too many. And these were babies. Babies. 2 9-year-olds, and one was almost 9. You know, and I don't know. I mean, the schools have done everything they can to make it safer. You know, you've got to get buzzed in. Now, they won't just let anybody in the school anymore at any time. You have to get buzzed in. A lot of schools have put, and Ruckus can probably tell you what this is more than I can, but there is a solution that they put over the windows and the doors to make it harder for them to shoot through. I know that my kids' schools have that, but it's not stopping these people with these assault weapons. These assault weapons are going right through this stuff. And one of the things that schools have is a lot of windows and a lot of glass doors. You know, the only thing that I can think of when it comes to this is not to have as many windows and not to have glass doors whatsoever. So it's just a shame that we pretty much have to fortify our schools in order to keep our kids safe. And schools have tried everything, putting fences around them, you know, making one entry and exit point, and it's still happening. It's still happening. So it breaks my heart. It makes me so sad. It does. Calls all over the country. This 21st century has to be a way to prevent this from happening. Absolutely. It does. It does. Take away from principal salary, hire vets, put at all doors that can afford it. You know, I'm not going to say to take away these teacher salaries and these principal salaries because they don't get paid a lot to do this. Yes, they get their summers off, but teachers are underpaid. Working as a volunteer in a school really opened up my eyes as to what these teachers are really going through on a daily basis. They're not only a teacher. They're a disciplinary, they're a mother figure. You know, it's not just them teaching anymore. They have to stand there and try to teach as they get interrupted by children who have uncontrollable behaviors that are negative, that impact the whole class. I don't know how many times I saw the same little boy in the hallway, and they had to put him in the hallway because he would just scream and nobody could learn anything because he didn't get his way. He didn't want to do the work. And this is an elementary school. I don't know how many times I stood there and watched a child run out of the school and stop all teaching immediately when that happened. Because all the teachers then have to focus on that child that has run outside and try to keep an eye on their classrooms at the same time. It's not easy today. I don't know. Teaching used to be a big profession. A lot of people wanted to do it. And I don't know that that's going to be a common profession that people are going to want to do in the future. Not with the way that the schools are now and with these shootings. There's been 51 school shootings in the U.S. Unbelievable. Exactly. 51 too many. The little boy was on his way to pull the fire alarm. Oh. Schools are not safe. I used to go pick up my daughter from school when she was ill. If the doors were closed, all I needed was to be buzzed in. How did the school know I wasn't armed? Well, a lot of schools have the camera with the buzzer now, so they can see you, but you can hide things. That is definitely possible. Parents have said buzzing in at the door won't get it used part of principal salaries. Yeah. Yes, it's a very sad week there in Nashville. Maybe decorative bars on windows and doors so they cannot gain access, and maybe train our vets to be in schools also. But then you're putting our vets in danger. It's not like they can walk around holding a gun on them all the time. I don't know what the answer is, but there's an answer. And our government just keeps allowing it to happen. If the government can afford to send money to other countries, our government can afford this. Our children matter. Yes. Our children do matter. Let's see. And if we don't get armed guards at every school, we need to arm teachers. Some teachers don't want to be armed. Some do. Mother of Dragon says, you're correct, Marv. They are more than teachers. Yes, they are. They're the most underpaid profession. Yeah. And they use their own money. So they're underpaid, and they use their own money to buy supplies for their kids. You wouldn't believe how many teachers spend their own money and what they buy for their kids to make sure that their kids have everything that they need to try to learn. And yes, this is a good point. We are starting to have teacher shortages. And not only are we starting to have teacher shortages, if you live where I do and the school doesn't get the money that they ask in the referendums, what's the first thing they cut? Teachers. teachers in school programs, like extracurricular sports and things like that. So, Angela, this is part of what we're going to talk about tonight. So this young lady was 20 years old, lived at home with her parents. Her parents were very religious. She planned this out meticulously. Okay. So what we found out is that she had detailed maps of the school. She knew exactly what was the easiest point of entry. She knew exactly where she was going to go, what hallways to go down, what area she could shoot at the cops from. She knew the school inside and out. How is that? Because she didn't go to school there. Now, not being 28 years old, yes, the reports are that she went to school 15 years ago there, but I'm sure the school's changed. So, did her family go to church there? Did she go and walk through the halls and map things out after church? How did she know the layout of the school that well? And that wasn't her only target either. She had other schools picked out. There was one that was closer to her. She chose not to go there because the security was stronger. So, along with that, we find out that she does have emotional issues. She had bought a gun. Her parents found out about it. They told her to get rid of it. She told them that she sold it. So as far as they were concerned, she did not have any guns. When she left that morning, she had a big red bag with her, and they asked her what was in the bag. And she didn't answer them. She just kept going. But they not once did they ever think that there were guns in that bag, because she told them she sold the gun and didn't have any. Come to find out, she had 7 guns. She purchased all 7 guns legally, and 3 of them she used in the shooting. And the parents had no idea. They had no idea she had any guns, much less 7. And it sounds like they were keeping an eye on her. When you think of it and think of how detailed she planned this, and how she knew where to go in and where to go and where to look and everything, and to go up. I would love to show you guys the videos. They have the body cam footage of the police officers. They have the video of her entering the school. However, last night when I was looking at the new YouTube standards, it says that we cannot show you anybody with a gun. So the videos I had planned on showing you, I cannot show you, because they will take us down immediately. But I'm sure all of you've seen them. The video of her shooting out the door, walking in, going into the first office there, coming back out, walking into another door, coming out, and then entering through the double doors. Then if you watch the body camera of the police officers, they're at the front at the door. The one officer's pulled up. A woman from the school is outside telling them all the kids are locked down. We can't find 2 kids though. We think they're there. They're here or there. You can hear that. This guy goes to the door. There's another officer. They're screaming, "We need 3. We need 3." You know, They're waiting for that third officer to come in. They would like 4, but they need 3 in order to keep themselves protected. They get the number they need and they go straight in. And they're looking in classrooms and down the hallways and everything, and they hear the shooting. You can see them running towards the shooting. They go running up the stairs and down the short hallway, and you can see one of the officers stops and like freezes. He hears her shooting, and the other officer pushes him and nudges him, and they all go in, and then they take her down. That's scary. Even for them, even when they're trained, it's still scary for them. And in that split second, that officer froze until the other one nudged them forward, and they went and they took down the threat. I give them credit. They all did their job. Even the officer that froze for that second or two still kicked in after he got the nudge. It kicked in, and he went and did what he needed to do. And all 3 of them shot at her. So what makes a 28-year-old woman or anyone do this? Well, there's some issues with her. We know that. She is female. She lives in a very religious home. Parents say she's got some emotional issues. She definitely identifies as transgender, male, but she's using both sets of pronouns. She, her, he, him. Because there is 10 minutes before she did this, she text messaged somebody that she had gone to school with that meant a lot to her and said, "I'm about to die. You're probably going to hear about me on the news." And when she signed off on it, she put Aubrey and then Aiden in parentheses. So is this an individual that felt that she should be a he, but couldn't be himself because his parents were totally against it? Did they finally have a breakdown and just decide to take out other people because they were miserable? Was there an issue when she did go to this school, and that's why she picked the school? We don't know. All we know is that our kids live in a very different world today. Yeah. It's not just up, the schools want to be safe, but they don't have the money for the security windows, etc. And part of it is that we have a decline in enrollment in schools across the United States. And these schools are used to getting a lot of help from the state. Well, that's not happening now because enrollment's down. So now these schools are asking their communities for more and more and more money instead of budgeting towards what they have now. And the communities are getting sick of it, and they're voting the referendums down. That's what's happened here. So I think the schools and the administrators have to play a big part in this. They got to realize that, yes, they've had it made all these years with with all the funds that they've gotten, because enrollment's been high, they've been able to offer all this great stuff. But with enrollment decreasing, their spending also has to decrease. And that hurts our kids in ways, because now teachers are getting cut. AP programs are getting cut. Sports activities are getting cut. Or you have to pay to be in them. I don't know what the answer is for these schools, but these communities do have to step up with the world we live in today and do things to these schools to make them safer. Olivia says, we live in an extremely violent time. The shooter had already talked about suicide. Why kill the children and adults? I agree. And the only thing I can think of is that person was so miserable that they didn't want to go down alone. And why is that? If you're that miserable, why take somebody with you that didn't do anything to you? Bunch of calls made to schools across Pennsylvania today. This put the kids in lockdown until police arrive and can clear the area. These are not pranks. This is an act of terrorism on their children. You've got that right. And what makes me mad, what makes me angry right now, is you have the government trying to tell you that TikTok is their priority. TikTok is so bad for you. We got to get rid of TikTok. We got to ban TikTok. You're going to ban TikTok, but you won't ban assault rifles? What is your issue? How are your priorities so out of whack? Christy, I do believe she wanted suicide by cop. I don't think she could do it by herself. And she wanted the police to do it for her. And you're right, that's what she got. The guns or the government are not calling schools all over the nation. Evil people are. I agree with you. They've been wreaking havoc today. Therefore, our society is the problem. And you're right. And that's part of what I wanted to talk about. Think about when we were younger. Okay? When we grew up, I don't know about you, but we had rules at my house that we had to follow. We were outside as kids all the time. Not everybody got a participation award. There was actual competition. Kids learned from their parents and from their schools how to deal with confrontation, conflict. You learn that. The kids nowadays, they don't get that. Everybody's a winner. There's no competition. These kids have low self-esteem, low self-worth. They're pretty much bringing up themselves because you have both parents that have to work. So the parents are so busy working that they're not able to put the attention on the kids like we got when we were young and growing up. Instead, they're given all these electronics and whatever they want to make it easier for the parents so that the kids stay out of their hair. But how many parents really talk to their kids like I do? Like my parents talk to me? It seems like the integrity, the moral structure of our youth today is so much different than what we grew up with. And that's an issue. Freckle Joy says, I used to transfer psych patients on hold all the time. There are acute facilities and psych ERs, and there are long-term care facilities in most county hospitals. Yes, there is. Evil is the byproduct of a broken world. You got that right. Sadly, we're living in a didn't time. I'm 53. My kids beat my A and grounded me when I was in trouble. Oh, yes. And that's what I was just saying. We got grounded. We got spanked. You betcha. We didn't get participation awards. You earned it. We had training for bomb threats hid under our desk, not active shooter training. We had tornado warnings, drills. I remember that. We had fire drills. And that's all I can remember growing up. Those two sets of drills. I don't think being in where we are, we didn't even get bomb threat drills. But I can understand where other parts of the United States would. And now these kids have to go through active shooter drills and all this other stuff. Dave says, very few people graduated back in my day. My brother was the only one who graduated. 4 of us. Yep. Yeah. And we got spanked with a belt, with a spoon, with their hand, whatever they had at the moment. That's what you got spanked with. I hate violence, but also support the Second Amendment, which may despise. I support the Second Amendment. I have guns here in my house. But we do not need assault weapons. Assault weapons are for the military. We don't need these magazines that hold all these bullets. If we didn't have that, yes, there still would be shootings, but I can guarantee you that you wouldn't have 15, 20, 25, 50, hundreds killed or injured in these events. And I'm not saying to take guns away. I'm saying just the assault rifles that hold too many bullets at one time. If I want to protect myself at home, I should only need 3 bullets if somebody walks in my door. If I'm a good shot, it should only take me 1. I mean, you guys tell me, what is the purpose of an individual having these high-powered, multi-magazine assault weapons? What is the draw to it? I mean, yes, I've shot one. You have to sit there and hold the button down and a bunch of bullets spray out. Is it the power of the feeling of it? To me, it wasn't a big deal, but that's me. You're right. It's a huge problem with many facets. No simple answer. And we know that because we haven't gotten results. Nothing wrong with people owning guns, but there's no reason for assault weapons if you are not in the military or on the police force. Parents' hands are getting tied for trying to raise our children like we were raised. Exactly. That's another point I want to bring up. These kids today, they're so smart. They know they have you over a barrel because they learn it at a young age from each other. Your parents can't spank you. If they spank you, you can call Child Protective Services on them and get them in trouble. You can't ground them and take away all their stuff. It's your stuff. If they do, you can call the police on them, and then you can call CPS. Has it stopped me? Nope. Now, my kids are older. I haven't had to spank them in a very long time. But when it came down to it and they needed a paddling, and I'm not talking about beating my kids, just a little sting to make them realize that I was serious. And I did it. Didn't have to do it very, very often. Now all I gotta do is raise my voice. And they know. Yeah, and we all have guns, but we don't go around shooting people. But what is it that's making these individuals that have guns pick them up and walk into schools, shooting our kids, grocery stores, concerts? Why is it that these people feel that this is the way to go? Unless you're in the military and are undergoing constant training, you don't need an AR-15. Train derailment drills. Wow. Yep. Well, mental hospitals is not the answer either, because look at what happened in all the mental hospitals, how those poor people were actually treated. Drugged up, zombified. They weren't being helped in a mental hospital. They were being abused and drugged to where they weren't even human. Um, I had to buy my daughter a bulletproof backpack. Glad my kids are 26 and 28 and out of school and college. Now I have to worry about my grandkids going to school. Yes. What's the difference between the outside babysitting kids and computers doing it? Well, I can tell you this. When it comes to the true crime world, being outside, I didn't have to worry about online predators. Yes, back in my day, you had kidnappings, but they weren't very frequent. And even though I was outside, I had a neighborhood full of parents watching out for everybody's kids. Um, I'm not saying, Jinx, that you're a danger. And I know that there are people that love their AR-15s. I have a friend that's got one. Like I said, I've shot one. And there's a difference between somebody who loves guns but respects them and knows the boundary of them versus somebody who has an obsession with guns who just thinks about hurting people. But how do you distinguish between the two when you're selling an AR-15? You can't. You don't know. I remember my granny telling me to pick a switch from a tree. Oh, yes. I remember those days too. Smallest one. Yeah, it does hurt. My husband says the best weapon is a shotgun. And the reason he says that is because as soon as that person hears the chunk, you know you're in trouble. Hi, Queen of Ocean. I'm doing good. So, Mother of Dragons, my opinion is a gun cannot shoot anyone unless a person pulls the trigger. Correct. It's not about the guns. It's about the easy access of the guns, of the assault weapons. But initially, and more importantly, and most importantly, it's the person behind the gun. They have to be the one to actually pull the trigger and do the shooting. And with the world the way it is today and all of the mental illnesses we have, you don't know for sure who's got a mental illness or not. So you don't know who's getting that gun. Are they going to be one of the people that respect the weapon and the purpose of owning the weapon? Or are they going to be one of the people that are obsessed with the weapon and what they can do to hurt others with that weapon? Yes, we have parents today with mental health and addiction problems. You have children raising themselves because nobody is focused on them, teaching them what's right and wrong, what's morally correct and what's not, how to have integrity, how to work hard. You have grandparents or other family members that are trying to raise their grandchildren. Yep. Most have them as a hobby, and then you have the ones who use them for violence. Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking. Freckle Joy says, we have had an AR ban before. I would not count on your gun being legal very much longer. Well, we keep saying that. Sandy Hook happened. After Sandy Hook, we're like, oh, it's got to happen now. These are babies. These are first graders. Didn't happen. Then you had Parkland. Didn't happen. Then you had Uvalde. Didn't happen. And now you have Nashville and others in between. Draw is manufacturing companies makes the money. Money talks. Is that why our politicians won't put out more gun laws? Same thing about cigarettes. It's not the butt that kills, it's the person smoking one that does. Yep, exactly. There's a setting for a single shot and a setting for a burst of 3 rounds. Okay. You're right. They should have never had a gun. Their parents tried, made them get rid of the first gun. They thought she sold it. But here they found out just the other day she had 7 guns. My daughter tried to say, I'll call the police, and I handed her the phone and said, go ahead. I said, they won't be taking me away. She went to her room. Yep. Yes. There is a big difference between abuse and spanking. Kids don't respect authority. That's because they're not brought up with authority. The parents are busy working. They come home, they're tired. They just don't want to deal with it. You know? I had to laugh. I never stopped loving my granny. I just tread lightly. She carried one on her dash of the car at all times. Stephanie says, I think there are always warning signs that are being ignored by parents and family members. Exactly. Randy says, bullying, or they're different to live how they want to be. In this case, I think that's true. In this case, I think that this woman wanted to identify as a man and be transgender, but her family was dead against it, and she was conflicted. Let's see here. Human interaction is needed, not just a computer or phone. The cyberbullying is unbelievable with these kids. I agree. Now, I have a child who is part of the LGBTQ community. She has transgender friends. I've been able to interact with these individuals and see their side of it, what they go through, how conflicted they are, how much of a low self-esteem isn't even the correct word for it. They actually have absolutely no self-esteem or self-worth. They are so conflicted. So Boost Mobile, this is incorrect. This person was actually a female, born a female. And she was transgendering to a male. So Aubrey was her given name. And Aiden was the name he chose as his transgendering male name. Either people are afraid to get involved, or they're too busy holding up their cell phone to record it to get involved. They'd rather get the footage. Oh, Jinx, you're not upsetting us. You're good. One day you'll play a tune on the piano behind you. That's fake. This whole room behind me is fake. It's virtual. Well, guns are not the problem. What about knives? Knives are used too. Anything can be a weapon. But what weapon do we have in this world today that could take out multiple people in seconds? Well, you have the person behind the gun who's not thinking right. And you have the gun that allows you to press the button and spray out hundreds of bullets in a minute. With a knife, it's more personal. They always say a knife is more personal. Takes more effort. Takes more time. My son is a law enforcement and said the same thing about a shotgun, but yet he bought me a Glock. Yeah, and you don't hear of very many mass stabbings. There's been some that have been attempted. You're right, DGR Dave. Mental illness has always been here. It's always been here, and it's always been an issue of how to treat it. And if we can make somebody get treated for it. I do believe youth centers with positive role models as mentors would benefit many. But can you keep out predators on staff, keep out gangs, and would the kids be respectful of each other? There are programs in the United States like this, and they do work. The problem is that not all the areas have these programs or the funding for these programs, and the kids that do go through these programs get a lot of benefit from them. So is that something that we need to make mandatory in every community, that they have these programs for these kids? But then you can't make the kids go to them either. Yeah, and here's another thing. You can try to ban ARs now, but now people know how to put them together, so they go out and they buy the parts and they find a way. And yeah, we did have a ban on them for 10 years. And look at what's happened since that ban's gone away. Seems like we have some kind of shooting, mass shooting, every week. Somewhere. Grocery store. Concerts. Schools. It's everywhere now. It's not just in our schools anymore either. It's everywhere. CJK says the NRA is not pro-rogue gun owner. They want law-abiding citizens to own them and to be trained in how to use them. That's fine. But you have citizens that own these that have issues that should not have them, are not trained on how to use them, that are coming out and shooting up our schools. And like I said, it's not just schools anymore. anywhere is not safe. Every school needs armed RSOs or security officers in the right ratio to students who aren't afraid to use their guns. How are they going to pay for them? If they can't even pay to keep the teachers and the programs that will help keep the students active, how are they going to pay for these armed RSOs? You are absolutely right, Angela. It seems like there's a little bit of revenge and suicide by cop here in this situation in Nashville. So this happened on Monday. This happened on Monday. They need to start treating schools like courthouses. I don't think that's the answer either. There's got to be a happy medium. There's got to be a way to keep our kids safe and still give them the ability to learn and not feel like they're in a jail. Yes, I'm hoping that they release the manifesto. Right now, from what I've heard, they're saying that there was maps in there, details of other locations for the shooting, and that's about all they're saying. Mental illness is when people start killing other people, no matter what gender they are. Right. She texted a friend, which I think was a call for help, but followed through, and suicide by cop was how she wanted to go. She did text. I've got the text. Hi, Blue Lamp. She told that friend she left the evidence she needed, wasn't sure what she meant. I don't know that she was on any meds for her change. I know she was under a physician's care, but that's it. It was strange she chose a school since she had just finished being a graphic designer on a children's book. And she's an artist, and she was pretty darn good at it. She had a lot of potential. She just chose to do the wrong thing. Just wanted to tell you I got my husband a Marvin Frank hoodie for helping me out during my recovery. He loves it. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, nowadays, whenever you go anywhere, you have to be aware of your surroundings at all times. Boston, you keep saying cutting principal salaries. Principals don't make a whole lot of money either, just like the teachers. That's not the answer. Because then you're just going to have a shortage of principals and you're not going to have anybody running these schools. You got to remember the principals work more than the teachers do. They're still doing things during the summer. You know, they don't have the summer off like the teachers do. They still have meetings and budgets to plan for the next year and things to do. So, yeah, they get paid more than the teachers, but not a lot more. So, cutting their salaries isn't going to help. Yes, Christy. So, this is another thing that I wanted to talk about today. Melissa Joan Hart, I watched a video today. They were on their way to go to their child's school. And all of a sudden, they saw a teacher and all these students coming out of the woods. And they had to go across 4 lanes of traffic. So both her and her husband got out of the car, and her husband was stopping other cars, and so were other individuals, and they were helping these kids and these teachers get across the road. They didn't know what was happening. They didn't know that there was a shooting at that time at the school. They kind of assumed and figured there was a shooting going on because they had heard shots, and by the look on the teachers' faces, they knew it was serious. So she helped these kids across the road. They helped a mother who was pregnant go and try to locate her child. It was a phenomenal video to listen to. Just, I mean, her emotion and everything. It was amazing. She had a manifesto in her car, and at her home, Ellie's had bags of stuff they took out of the house. Yep. I heard she had some information on her too. So I don't know if she had maps, some of the detailed maps that she had made of inside the school on her, so she knew where to go. And yes, I agree. Her change was within the past few years. The emails or texts or whatever they were was a friend she played basketball with when she was younger. And this woman stepped up. As soon as she got these messages and replied back to her saying, "Oh, come on. Well, here, I'll show them to you. I've got them." All right, let me bring them up here. So she sent these messages to a friend before carrying out a targeted attack on the Covenant Christian School. And it's coming from Aiden. So this is her transgender male name. So basically, that post I made on here about you, that was basically a suicide note. I'm planning to die today. This is not a joke. You'll probably hear about me on the news after I die. This is my last goodbye. I love you. See you again in another life. And she signs it, Aubrey, and then Aiden. And the girl says, "Aubrey, you have so much more life to live. I pray God keeps and covers you. I know, but I don't want to live. I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to upset you or get attention. I just need to die. I want to tell you first because you are the most beautiful person I've ever seen and known all my life." My family doesn't know what I'm about to do. One day this will make more sense. I've left more than enough evidence behind, but something bad is about to happen. Those are very chilling words. Very chilling words. And this woman who received these messages, she turned around, called her dad first, was in a panic, wanted to know what to do. He told her to call a suicide prevention hotline. She called the suicide prevention hotline. They told her they couldn't do anything unless this girl actually called in themselves and to call the police. And she did call the police exactly at the time that the shooting started. Sadly, we do have an epidemic in our country. It is definitely an epidemic. It is internal terrorism in the United States. And the politicians, not happy with them. Many of us aren't. The only thing we can do is contact our representatives, our governors, and make them demand that they do something to stop this. Some were outside. I know that when the shooter drove up, in the background, you can see kids playing outside. So she could have easily taken them all out with her guns, but she didn't. She went inside. So I'm wondering if some of the classrooms were able to escape while she was on the second floor shooting at the police out the window, or if those were the kids from the playground that were going through the woods, that were running through the woods. Yeah, I will. Let me see if I can find it. It's in my watched from today because I watched it. And I will try to get the link. Okay. Just give me a minute here. I watched a lot of videos today.
Go for Grubhub. I hear a free Grubhub Plus with Prime.
Just trying to find the right.
Hi everyone, Mark Barton here.
The right video. Because there was a couple of them. One was man stops traffic as students flee shooting. So I'm going to try to. Okay. So let me get on my YouTube here on the computer.
It was a race to escape gunfire that Jason Hoffman heard.
I'm going to play this video for you guys. I don't know if this is her husband. I believe this is another gentleman that stopped traffic to let these kids across the road. But I'm going to play this one and try to find the other one here. So here we go.
There are many unsung heroes from yesterday's school shooting. Teachers who ushered kids to safety, drivers who stopped traffic to assist. This news Stephanie Langston spoke with one of those unsung heroes who encountered dozens of children fleeing from their school.
She jumped out almost immediately in front of me.
It was a race to escape gunfire that Jason Hoffman heard just moments before the encounter.
I think I heard at least maybe 10 to 15 shots.
Hoffman hunkered down, seeking cover in his car as he tried to leave the area on Hillsborough Road before a woman who appeared to be a teacher jumped out of the wood line, waving down with dozens of children.
But when I saw the kids coming out of the woods, it just really hit me. It just really hit me.
Without hesitation, Hoffman got out, stopping traffic on the busy four-lane road.
As soon as I jumped out of the car and stuck my arms out, people to the left and in front of me were jumping out. We just heard gunshots right before that as these kids are coming out. I didn't know if people were going to shoot at us or at the kids. So the other drivers just quickly helped usher them across the road.
While capturing these images of the children visibly shaken, running for their lives.
They were obviously distraught. They were upset. They were crying.
While witnessing the heroic efforts of who he believes is the teacher, running back and embracing one of the little girls in the middle of Hillsborough Road.
The teacher was a hero.
The image is difficult for Hoffman to look at now that he knows what happened Monday morning inside Covenant School, especially as a father to a 9-year-old.
It's very emotional, and I see children that are going to remember this day for the rest of their lives, and they're going to be changed by this day forever. I've cried today. I cried yesterday. I don't know how many times. I've cried today. I'm crying right now. It's going to be something I never forget. And these parents, I cannot even put myself in their shoes and even be able to get out of bed. You know, I just don't understand.
Hoffman saying he feared sending his kid to school today and does every day, saying he hopes that this tragedy causes change across the country and that he would like to see increased security at schools and stricter gun laws.
Sorry that it's in these unbearable circumstances, but tell me about your day. Where were you going and what all of a sudden happened?
Well, as you talked about Sandy Hook, I lived in Connecticut at the time of that as well. Had a first grader in school, ran to get him from school. I don't even know if he was I think he was in lockdown, but I don't recall. And so now we moved to Nashville 2.5 years ago, and we were driving to our kids' school, and we passed Covenant every day to get to our child's school. He wasn't in session yesterday. It was conference day. So we were going just to meet with his teacher. So my husband and I were together, and we see a helicopter down the road, and we're like, what is that helicopter just sitting there for? And then we're redirected by just one cop car. Is like, you can't go straight, you got to turn. So we turn, and the car in front of us stops, and I see, I'll never forget this image of a woman coming out of the woods onto this 5-lane highway. And there's this calm expression on her face, and yet she is so stoic. And all of a sudden, all these little children start crossing the street, and she stops the traffic and she gets her children out. I get out of the car and I go to try to help her. I'm lifting children, like pushing past shrubbery, like lifting them out of woods. And one little kid says to me, "What's going on?" And I said, "We're just going to cross the street right now." And I was just praying that child didn't hear the fear in my voice, because it's all sort of coming together. What's going on? There was a helicopter. There's no cops around. There's just a school full of children coming through the woods. And we got them across the street as fast as we could. The teachers didn't want to make eye contact. I think it's because they were trying not to break down. They were trying to hold it together for these children. And so I wasn't really sure how to help. But then I decided to go over to the children, and one of them was crying, and I said, "You're okay, you're okay." And another little girl said, "I like your pink shirt." And I said, "Well, I like your shirt too." And then the teacher kind of ushered them away, and they went down. And this woman that was helping me with the children sat down next to me and goes, "My children are in that school." So I decided to stay with her and pray with her. And another mom came up and prayed with her. And my husband ran to, now at this point, about 200 police officers, cars, unmarked cars, sirens everywhere. It was like loud, it was deafening. And my husband went to one of the cops and said, "This woman, her children are in there. What does she do?" And we figured out we should get her to the fire station. So my husband drove her in her car to the fire station. I went back to our car, which was parked the other direction. And as I'm sitting there wondering what's going on, like, it seems like it's a shooter situation, but I don't want to put those words together yet. And I'm sitting there and 4 ambulances go by me. And that's when I realized this is what is happening, what is going on. When I was praying with that mom on the hill, we were saying, you know, that there were some shots that were heard, but we don't know what that was. We don't know if that was in the school. We don't know anything. Right now, we're just praying that everything is okay. And, you know, to see those ambulances go by, it was pretty clear that there was a lot of injuries, if not deaths.
It's remarkable that you're going through this, Melissa, having lived it, you know, near Sandy Hook. And so this seems to be a recurring theme, that people across this country are getting closer and closer to their own experiences with school shootings, and maybe tangentially as close as 1 degree away. There was something else that you did. You helped to reunite a child with the child's parents. What happened?
Well, that was the woman that was sitting next to me on the hill. We were up on this hillside. I can't even describe it. It was just the side of the highway, really. And there was a fence, so we couldn't get through. And the children were having to like single file go along the fence line. And they went in one direction. And when the mom behind me said, "My children are in there," that's when I prayed with her until my husband was able to help her down the hill. I realized she was pregnant. And I'm thinking now, of course, looking back, I'm like, in 2012, I had just given birth to my 3rd child, and I had 2 kids in school. And I'm that mom, you know, about a decade before. And I just felt for this woman. And so my husband was able to bring her to the fire station. And as soon as she walked in, apparently her children came in through the back door. So she was reunited with her children. And I was so glad to know that, because I don't know her name. I don't know the children from that kindergarten, and I have not watched the news. So just seeing what you showed us, the body cam video, I had not watched that, and just wondering which classroom these kindergartners came out of, and, you know, how they got out, how their teachers were so brave to get them out. And I'll never forget the look on that teacher's face as she crosses the street and doesn't really look, because what's in front of her is less dangerous than what's behind her. And she just has to get her little babies to the other side. And it was so traumatic. And I was just a bystander. I'm just there trying to help in any way I can. But to know that there are parents last night that went home without their children, there are parents last night that went home and had to explain things to their children that they saw, that they experienced, that they heard, those first responders, it is just unfathomable. The whole thing, it's too much.
Melissa, I'm so sorry that your community is touched by this horror now, and that this is, I mean, it's like I said before, you've now dealt with this twice within your own, you know, personal space of your family, your haven.
Actually, my son, I said to my 17-year-old last night, I hugged him and I said, you know, I'm sorry that this is the 2nd time you've been in a lockdown. And he said, actually, Mom, it's the 3rd. And I forgot that his schools, there was a shooting in the temple next door. So I forgot about that one. And he reminded me, he was very aware of that.
Well, listen, thank you for what you did yesterday. And thank you for telling us about it as well. Thank you for sharing this. And let's just pray that we can get on track, and this isn't going to be the norm for the next generation.
Yeah, I keep saying we pray today, and we take action tomorrow. So,
Melissa Joan Hart, thank you, and bless you, and bless your community as well in Nashville.
You too.
Thank you for
Wow. Hearing her describe the look on the teacher's face and not really, how she said all she could do was look forward because what was behind her was a lot worse. And to get those babies across the road, crazy. And you see how emotional she is being a bystander during all this. It's just absolutely. And the guy in the first video, I mean, can you imagine being on the road and seeing this? A teacher walk out in the road, stop the traffic, and all these kids, some hysterical, some crying, some just trying to run. It's an insane moment for all of them. And look at how it affected all of them. It wasn't just affecting the teacher and the kids. The man was affected. Melissa was affected. Her husband was affected. Everybody who saw that was affected. And trying to hold it together. She said those teachers wouldn't look you in the eye because she thought that they were trying to hold it together for their kids. That those teachers' focus was strictly on those kids and getting them as far away from that school as possible. So it's crazy. Something has to give. I'm gonna, trying to get a picture up here. Here we go. We've had a very good discussion tonight. And in the end, it all comes down to the individuals that have lost their life during this tragic event. It's not even an event. It's just a tragic, something that should never happen. Something that should never have happened. So just one thing to let you all know, I have to praise the police in this situation. They handled this in the best way they could. They were there within 14 minutes of the first report of the shooting. They went in. They didn't hesitate. They got the number of people that they needed to. They went in and they took out the threat. And because of that, and the fact that these teachers know how to hunker down or get their kids out of the school, we lost 6 precious lives. And the picture of the little boy is missing, but so the 3 children that were killed were Evelyn Dykos, Haley Scruggs, and William Kinney. Scruggs was the daughter of the senior pastor at the church, which is associated with the private school. The adults that were killed were identified as the head of the school, Catherine Kuntz, substitute teacher, Cynthia Peak, and custodian, Mike Hill. So we want to take a few minutes to offer our prayers, strength, to these families, to this community. These 6 individuals lost their life for no reason. For absolutely no reason. Oops. And my hope and my prayer is that we can find a way to stop this from happening again. To where we don't have to hear about children hiding and running for their lives, or losing their lives, or the adults that are there trying to teach them losing their lives. So we stand with these families and in their grief, what they're going through, preparing funerals for their loved ones. Those will be coming up. And their fight. They've joined a community, a society that they never wanted to join. And that society and that community grows every day by these senseless acts of violence. So for now, we remember the 6 individuals that were killed at the Nashville, Tennessee Covenant School. We hold their families, their community in our prayers and our thoughts. And we stand behind them on making this finally end. With that, I bid you a good night. We'll be back probably later on, or on this weekend. But until then, just keep these families in your thoughts and your prayers. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.